Okay, so CLO has this new avatar blend feature that was released as part of the 2026.0 update. And I was like, what is this thing? I'm always interested in new avatar features because avatars are so essential for getting an accurate fit. Especially if you want to translate your garment into a real life garment, you need an avatar that is appropriately modifiable so you can get the right shape and size of the body that you're trying to actually fit in real life. And somebody once left a comment on one of my videos saying that avatars were one of the weakest parts of the CLO 3D whole platform. And I would tend to agree. The avatars are the weakest part and the ability to modify them are very limiting. So what's this new avatar blend feature? So the documentation from the CLO manual doesn't give us much information. It basically says that there's this really cool blend shape feature that you can now use in CLO. But then the note here says to use this feature, you should import files that contain blend shape data. So what does this even mean? So in other programs, I'm going to talk about Daz 3D because that's what I'm most familiar with. You can go into the program and you have these sliders or morphs so that you can change the proportions of your avatar in specific areas. So what the new blend shape feature in CLO allows you to do is bring in those sliders into CLO with the avatar that you import. So then you can modify the shape or the morphs within CLO instead of having to go back and forth between the two programs. So let's go have a look at the overall process and I'll give you my thoughts at the end. Okay, so let's look at how this is done. This is my Daz 3D avatar that I've modified and measured to roughly fit my own body measurements. If you look over here in the measure metrics tab, you can see that I can look at all of her measurements and I can also turn these on to look at exactly where the measurements are. So for her height, for example, it's from the floor to the top of her head, or if I want to know her waist measurement, I can turn that on and I can see exactly where the waist is being measured. And this applies to all the measurements. So if we look at her high hip, I can turn that on, low hip, all of that. So I showed how to use measure-metrics in a different video, which I'll link below. There is a slightly different workflow for this one because the Daz Gen 9 avatar doesn't work with the scripts. So I had to add in all the measurements myself, which I can show you all how to do in another video if there's interest in that. But she's ready to go. I've made all the modifications that I want. I've added all the shaping in. I also purchased an extra morphs package from Daz. So anything that's purple here, you can see it's an extra add-on that I've added, and I'll link that below as well. And so this is a feature I always thought would be really cool if we were able to bring these sliders into CLO, and even better if we could put actual measurements, which is actually what this new avatar blend tool is. Not the measurements, but the blend shaping features. So let's look at how to do that. First, I'm going to export this avatar as an FBX file. So now what you need from here is anything under staging that we want exported as a morph. They need to be added into the export rules, which you can import as an Excel sheet. So this is a little bit tedious, but this is the way I do it. And I would love to hear if somebody has a better workflow than this. What I did was took all of the lines that I needed out of this and pasted them into an Excel sheet. So any one of these lines that I thought I might need as a morph in CLO, I just copied and pasted over into this Excel sheet. Of course, you can't just do your regular Control-C, Control-V. So I had to use Windows Power Tools to get just the text, and then I would copy it over. And then I got my Excel file organized. I don't need the first two rows, just the third row that says the morph. So then I just spent a little bit of time just exporting what I thought I might need in CLO. So I'll just fast forward you through this. So once you have everything into your Excel file, in the second column, you just need to write export and save it out as a CSV file. And then back over here in my dialog box, under export rules, I'm going to import the CSV. And then of course Daz crashed a few times before that CSV actually imported, but eventually it did okay. Oh yeah, it worked. Okay. So then now when I look down here, all those things have been turned to yes. And then select accept. And then in CLO, you're going to go File, Import, FBX. Okay, so here is my avatar from Daz, and then I can go to Avatar Editor. And if this worked properly, those blend sliders should all have come into CLO. So if we go over here to blend shape, this is our new tool. We have all the sliders loaded. Now we don't need all of these. So I'm just going to take a minute and unstar. I'm going to just take a minute and star the things that I want. So I'm just looking for morphs that I want, like pectoral size, pectoral sag, pectoral height. Okay, so now that I've gone through and starred everything that I like, I can just filter it out by my starred items. So now I have a little bit more of a manageable list. And as I continue to work with the program, then I would continue to filter out this list and make sure that it's like has everything that I need. But now I can look at specific things in CLO if I want to change specific parts of this avatar. So if I want to change like her whole body, actually, like if I wanted to make her thinner overall, I would just move this slider and you can see that she's becoming thinner overall. If I wanted to give her more fitness details, move the slider and she's getting a little more cut. This one's cool, this waist width. If I were making a corset for this avatar, maybe I'd want her waist to be smaller. And it looks like it doesn't go below 0, but you can actually use negative numbers here as well. You could also add measurements onto your avatar so you know what the measurements are. So we can go to our measuring tool. We can do basic circumference and we can get her waist size. So if you want to see the length of all these lines, you can just use your edit avatar measure tool down here, right click on any line and say show all length, and you'll be able to look at all of them at the same time. So if we want to like change the overall shape of the body, we can change it. And on some of these sliders, you can actually go negative as well. And if you just want to revert back to the original shape of this avatar, this is this original neutral Daz avatar, and then you could start fresh from there. So I guess I actually don't even need to do any setup in Daz. I could just export the avatar, the base avatar with whatever morphs that I wanted and do the rest of my setup in CLO. Just set up my measuring tapes all around the body where I want them to go, and then modify my avatar to meet the measurements that I'm looking for in CLO. So that's pretty cool. So let me just show you a few more things that I think are super useful for intimates. If we use our avatar tape measure and use the surface tape measure, I can measure the horizon of her individual breast, which is super useful when you are creating bra patterns. And then we can get her lower cut measurement as well. And I know she seems a little bit wide set, but like I said, over here in the sliders somewhere, you are able to figure it out, but I'll figure that out at another time. In any case, you can see the functionality here. This is really nice that we can get all of these measurements. So really, I think that you would be able to bring this workflow into CLO. One big limiting factor I find is that this is not the nicest user interface. So if I want to measure like a certain part of her body, it's kind of hard to find in this big list, even though I have it filtered out from the other gigantic list that got pulled in here, what part of the body exactly that I want to measure. In Daz, they have little icons over here showing what part of the body you're measuring. So these are the overall body changes that you can make all in this tab. But if you want to just change the chest, for example, you would go down to the chest tab. And then under here, these would be all of the modifications that you can make for the chest, which is really nice because it's nice to have all of these modifications that you can make. And I can even filter out this a little bit more. There's base modifications, feminine and masculine. So the organization, the categorization of how you access these blend tools is nice to have because there are so many, and it's nice to have so many because then it allows you to create much more variety in the body shapes that you're creating. Back over here in CLO, they're organized alphabetically, which I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but you have to know exactly what you're looking for. Like I want to change her overall body proportion, and I'm not sure if it's in this list somewhere or if I filtered it out of the other lists that I would have to go through. So it's an annoying amount of time to have to spend just looking for the thing that you want to modify. So I think there's definitely room for improvement here in the user interface part of this. Even if you can organize it yourself and group these into subcategories, that would be useful. Better yet, it would be nice if CLO would automatically add measurements to the avatar when you import it. If there was like a script, just like there was in Daz, where you would just be able to say, add these landmark measurements to this body, and then you could go and modify where the measurements are being taken, and then also see what the measurements are in your Body Morphs tool. So there's room for improvement with this tool. It's functional as is, but it could definitely be better, and I hope CLO goes in that direction. Okay, so I just ran a quick test using a garment I made during my 12-week challenge where I actually made the CLO patterns for these garments and then the physical garment as well, which I'll link below if you want to check that out. But here you can see the simulation is very stable on this CLO 3D model that it was originally built off of, and it fits her really well, and it also fit well in real life. So now I'm going to delete this model and then bring in the FBX. So she's a little bit shorter and she has a slightly different posture, which is probably more representative of the real life human model it's based off of, which is myself. But I'm just going to position the garment on her and test out the simulation. So you can see the simulation is just as stable as it was on the CLO avatar. It's maybe slightly more mushy, but overall the simulation is definitely usable. So I think this is really cool. So then I did find one little bug here. If I try and save out this avatar or this FBX as an avatar with the morphs applied, and then I import her back into CLO, all those morphs end up being deleted, and the original avatar without any morphs applied is what's pulled back in. So hopefully this is a bug that's fixed sometime soon. So now that you've seen the overall process, you can see it's a little bit clunky, but if you spend the time and effort, you can get yourself to a point where you have a very usable avatar in CLO that is now more modifiable than what we had with the native CLO avatars. The setup takes a little bit of time, but theoretically, once you have it set up in CLO, it will be done and you won't have to do it again. If you're interested in learning how to use CLO 3D specifically for the development of intimate apparel, that's my specialty. I have a few courses that you can find over at wayfinder3d.com, as well as some free assets. I have a whole trim library that's available for free, like hook and eyes and rings and sliders and things that you typically need for intimate apparel, which are hard to find from other places. Also, in my courses, I have an online monthly meeting where students can come and ask questions and share their work, and we can all learn together. So if that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, I would love to see you over there. That's all I got for you today. I hope this was interesting, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Goodbye. Make sure to like and subscribe, please.